Once upon a time, in a world filled with endless to-do lists and overstretched humans, there was Dave. Dave was your typical person, constantly juggling work, life, and everything in between with all the grace of a flamingo on roller skates. But Dave had a secret weapon, a service dog named Tater. Tater, unlike most creatures, had mastered the art of living simply and wisely. This is the story of how Dave learned some of life's most important lessons from a dog. It was a lazy afternoon. The sun was streaming through the windows, the world was quiet, and Dave was flopped on his couch, looking lost in thought. He was on a mission to figure out the meaning of happiness. No big deal, right? But instead of meditating on it himself, Dave turned to the wisest being he knew. No, it wasn't some self-help guru or a philosopher. It was Tater, his service dog. Tater sat beside him, his face a picture of calm wisdom, though that could have just been the way his fur was shaped. "All right, Tater," Dave said, ruffling the dog's ears. "What's the secret to happiness?" Tater looked up at him with an almost imperceptible sigh, like he'd answered this question 1,000 times before, and was mildly amused Dave was still asking. "Happiness? It's simple," Tater seemed to say. "Don't chase your tail, Dave. Trust me, I've tried it, and it's not worth the trouble. Kind of like when you try to fold fitted sheets." Dave laughed. "Chasing your own tail? Really?" Tater gave him a look that said, "Hey, we all have our moments." Later that day, Dave was at his desk, in full-on multitasking mode. Emails were dinging, notifications were buzzing, and he was typing so fast, his keyboard looked like it might catch fire. Meanwhile, Tater lay on the floor, watching him with the kind of serene expression you only see on beings who know they have nothing to prove. "Tater, how do you stay so calm all the time?" Dave asked, rubbing his temples. "I feel like I'm drowning in stuff to do." Tater glanced up, blinking slowly, and gave Dave a wise look. "You humans," he seemed to say. "You're always thinking 5 steps ahead. When I chase the ball, I just chase the ball. I'm not worried about the next treat, the neighbor's cat, or what's happening tomorrow. I'm right here, in the moment. You should try it sometime." Dave paused, considering this nugget of wisdom. "Just focus on one thing at a time?" he asked. "Exactly," Tater seemed to say with a subtle wag of his tail. "Oh, and naps. You really need to take more naps." Dave chuckled. "Fair point." That evening, Dave dragged himself through the front door, looking like he'd been put through a blender of stress and exhaustion. He collapsed onto the couch with a groan. No sooner had he sat down than Tater was there, patting over with his quiet, steady presence. He nudged Dave's hand with his nose, then rested his head on his lap. Dave smiled down at his furry friend, the tension in his body already starting to ease. "You always know when I'm having a rough day," he said, softly stroking Tater's head. "How do you do that?" Tater didn't say anything, because, dogs don't talk, but his presence spoke volumes. "That's what I'm here for," he seemed to say. "No matter how hard your day gets, you're never alone. I've got your back, Dave." In that moment, Dave realized that sometimes the best comfort didn't come from words. It came from knowing that someone or some dog was there for you, no matter what. As the night wound down, Dave found himself curled up on the couch, gently scratching Tater behind the ears. It was one of those peaceful moments where everything felt right in the world, or at least in their small living room. "All right, Tater," Dave said with a grin. "Last bit of wisdom before bed. If you could tell every human one thing, what would it be?" Tater looked thoughtful for a moment. Then his tail gave a small wag. "Take it slow," he seemed to say. "Don't stress over things you can't control. Play more, love more, and always, always be open to chasing a ball. Oh, and if there's bacon involved, never say no to bacon." Dave chuckled. You really are a simple creature, aren't you? Tater gave him a knowing look. Simple? Maybe, but it's a good life. So, what's the moral of the story? It's this. Life doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. Take a cue from Tater. Focus on the present. Don't chase your own tail, literally or figuratively. And don't underestimate the power of a nap. Most importantly, remember that no matter how tough things get, you're never alone. And if bacon's on the table, well, you already know what to do. If you enjoyed these life lessons from Tater, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments. What's the best lesson a dog has taught you? P.S. If you're reading this while multitasking, maybe it's time to take a break. And don't forget the bacon. By Kenneth David Thomas, CEO of Visionary Tide Media. Remember, success is built one inspired step at a time.